Democracy is very tough to manage, but it's the best form of government.
We must promote unity, stability, and economic justice for everyone.
The question of security is paramount in my mind because women are the highest victim of insecurity.
Our diversity is an asset if we know how to use it.
The determination to probe the Central Bank of Nigeria by the president is to strengthen the Nigerian economy moving forward. The action has actually opened a can of worms about the fraudulent activities taking place in the regulatory institution. But how far really can the president go with the eventual report that will come out from the probe exercise? Let's take a look at the intricacies, implications, short and long-term impact of the probe exercise on the Nigerian economy moving forward with our guest analysts on the Presidency in Focus on TV Nigeria right after this time out. You're welcome. All right, you're welcome back to the studio. And of course, today we're going to be taking a look at a very fundamental issue, and that is the probing of the central bank governor by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. To a large extent, it's been quite startling revelations from that probe exercise. And to a large extent, a can of worms have also been opened, implicating top government functionaries and, of course, top-notch, respected Nigerians in the country, which has created a lot of suspicions and, of course, intricacies. And so today, we're going to be taking a look at the implications, the short and long-term impact of this probe on the economy, the very significant opening of very critical facts and figures, which to a large extent has implicated top Nigerians in government and, of course, key players, captains of the industries in the Nigerian financial and economic space. But the question is, what should the president do with the report of Obazi, the investigator of the central bank? What should be the role of the National Assembly in playing their oversight functions to put in place a proper law that will safeguard the operation of the regulatory body and a lot of other issues? So to take a look at this very important matter with me today, I've got an ex-banker of over 15 years from the Internal Control and Compliance Officer. I'm talking about Professor Adola Jce. Professor Adola Jce, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
We also have another political analyst, a public relations consultant. We're talking about Mr. Olusegun Israel Aino. Mr. Aino, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me once again. It's always a pleasure being here.
Let's start with you, Professor Adola Jce. Let's fill your pause quickly. From a professional perspective, how come it was so that easy to quickly make some very fast revelation about certain things underlining the operation of the central bank? Ordinarily, for a layman we felt there would be a lot of complications. Okay? But what are the dynamics involved in probing a regulatory body like the central bank?
The Central Bank of Nigeria is the monetary agency of the government and at the same time the regulator of the entirety of the monetary system of the country. And now probing whatever about the bank needs, and luckily the present government was able to pitch tent with a core professional who has over the years been used to what it is about financial probe, particularly high-powered probe of the financial system. The man in question, the investigator, is not just a new person. He had been involved in similar probes. Remember the issue of church GOs, bank MDs. Obaze came up with some startling revelations and policy changes. And then, his head was almost off. And this is not the first time the federal government or Mr. President categorically, because you will see this engagement of his is made by the president to specifically report directly to him. Because the president is aware of the intricacies and the nitty-gritty of what he's about doing at the CBN. And you will see on his resumption, the president made it a bit easier for him that he walked into the premises of the CBN without going through the official route of the leadership of the bank. So really is working with a lot of independence. And that is why we have been able to get the bulk of revelations and discoveries from him. And again, being the CBN, the central bank, a lot has to do with the laws, extant laws, financial acts, financial codes, and regulatory stuffs of the country. So Obaze has been found out, not even by this government alone, by several regimes, to have the needs and the wits to implement this. And luckily, Asiwaju was able to find him out.
Mr. Olusegun, probing the central bank, of course, has whipped up a lot of political undertone. It also has a lot of rippling effect in the political sector. As a political analyst, what are those kind of worms you think the probing has brought about politically?
Jim Obaze, like Professor said, has been around for some time now. Then fortunately for us, we have a president that is financially intelligent and experienced. So that makes it very easy for them to get things done this time around. All these our influential people, money bags, political heavyweights, they are all involved. Names are coming up. In fact, there is a particular one running helter-skelter, running all over the place, trying to see the president, because he wants a soft landing. Aliko Dangote, he got about $3.5 billion, without even paying the Naira equivalent. Though some say maybe he paid half or he has paid half now. Because ordinarily, something like that is something that should even go to prosecution. It's not just about you returning back the money or doing the right thing. You should be prosecuted. It's a criminal activity, a criminal offense. And that's why Emefiele is where he is currently. Not just Dangote, even expatriate companies, global giants in the agro-business, sector, Olam. They are subsidiaries in Nigeria. Since 2015, they've been doing this thing, even up to the tune of $50 billion, getting Forex with waivers, with special considerations, because they are supposed to be getting the Forex for things that will benefit the country. But instead of investing it back into our economy, they do the round trip. You just get the dollars and everything at the official rate, only for you to take it to the black market and sell it for double or triple the amount. That's what they've been doing. And our economy has been suffering for that. And that's why we are in the mess we are, the Forex mess we are currently. And I believe if the presidency and this government is serious, that place needs to be cleaned up. That place, even those, investigating, they are getting death threats. Like for you to now serious and, people running after waiting for 7 hours to see the president, going to mosques to go and hide. And, that's how desperate and how serious the matter is.
Professor Justice, was Emefiele the tripod stand that was used to be able to come up with this revelation?
Thank you very much. You know, we're talking about regulation. For you to be able to regulate independently and objectively, there is need for sanctity and sanity of the personnel. But what would you make of a CBN, the governor of the regulatory agency, being partisan politicking? He was not just doing that, he was now doing that in a group with notable persons whose names are being churned out by the Obaze report. The government wouldn't have done anywhere better or less than picking him out to enable this investigation as a compliance officer. What we do categorically in investigations is on the spot and the scene of an investigation, you take away the hands and the legs, the standing stool of the person being investigated.
So, Mr. Segun, would you see that as a strategy on the part of the government to squeeze? Because for me, I want to see Emefiele's incarceration as like squeezing him dry of information. And it's like he actually sang a lot of songs.
You know, for especially for the information of the viewers at home, for their enlightenment and their education, we must take note of the fact that even before the president brought in Jim Obaze, the DSS had already picked up Emefiele.
So he has started spilling.
He already started singing. In fact, he was singing terribly. You know, names like Aminu Yaro, the Sakin Hausawa of Lagos State came up. In fact, at some point, the DSS had to arrest Aminu Yaro and his wife. They took them up. Even the name of a current governor, in fact, the current governor of Zamfara State, Dauda Lawal Dare, came up. So at some point, a lot of people thought even Emefiele was deliberately trying to implicate some political enemies. But proper investigation was done, and we saw that it was even later that Dangote's matter came up. Because it wasn't only Dangote, there are still some other names, influential people that they've not specifically mentioned their names. But because Dangote out of the $5 billion wala, only Dangote's this thing was 3.4 or 3.5. Jim Obaze coming in only confirmed some of the confessions that Emefiele had already started making. Even confessing on how they deliberately put certain things in place just to stop a particular candidate from winning elections. Because of that, they came up with policies that killed a lot of Nigerians. You know, wrecked the businesses of a lot of people. And that's why a lot of people don't really care what happens to Emefiele now, whether the rule of law is being applied to his case or, you know, because left for some people, Emefiele can go to blazes.
Emefiele is now on bail and he was told to submit his international passport and all that. Is it a bailable offense or was there a negotiation with the government? Should the government negotiate such a thing?
Sorry, I want to premise my response on this issue on the previous nasty financial experience we had under the CBN headship, the same CBN now, of Sanusi Lamido Sanusi. I am not opposed to bails, but in the interest of the nation. Because like my colleague said, there's an arm of prosecution that goes with what we call plea bargaining. That was how we lost it as a nation to the era of Bukola Saraki and Sanusi Lamido. Then plea bargaining came in, and the armed robbers went away with the loot.
Mr. Segun, should Emefiele be prosecuted? Because at different forums, Nigerians are after the fact that let him go to jail. Do you share their line of thought?
Without mincing words, I think the likes of Emefiele should rot in jail. You see, we've abused this thing called plea bargain in this country. Even in the US, in better climes, in more advanced climes, they do plea bargain, but they don't just do it anyhow. When you have a case that even government recognizes the fact that maybe this case, if we try to go the whole log, it will take us some time. It will make us spend too much of taxpayers' money. That's when they talk to the criminal involved. That, okay, if you help us, you make it easy for us to, you know, maybe we'll give you a soft landing. It's not that you won't go to jail at all. But maybe instead of 20 years, we'll give you 10, but there must be consequences. For Emefiele, they should get back everything they should get. Then he should go to jail. There must be consequences. When you don't have consequences, it's an encouragement to those coming behind, to the younger generation. I mean, if I know that if I steal, at the end of the day, all I have to do is to just return some of the loot and then go home and go and enjoy it. Why won't I steal? Why won't people continue to steal? He must go to jail.
Let me borrow the words of Mr. Segun. There must be consequences. But In the course of this CBN probe, reports reaching us also has it that the whole fraud is like a web net. And if you want to really put the cards on the table, there are top politicians right in this government who have their hands stained or rubbished from a lot of revelations. Of course, for every government, there's a cabal. And the impression we are getting is that there's a cabal in the presidency right now. With this kind of development, would it be easy for the president to really say, hey, let's call names? Prof.
Thank you very much. You mentioned cabal. Even in heaven, there was cabal. Because that's why I want you to water down the conundrum of cabals. Under Asiwaju is Nigeria's president, first president that was once a kingmaker who eventually became the king. Not many persons like you were rolling out will be able to influence or control him. See, the way it started, you will see if you are conversant with the appointment of Jim Obaze, there were so many persons, so many influences that wanted to scuttle it. But because he is a financially literate person, so he came through the back of almost everyone. And if I can assure you, with what we have seen, with what we have read and what we have known of him, he knows how best to go about it. That was how he came by Jim Obaze.
Okay, let me come to you because of the issue I raised. What do you advise the president to do?
Well, you see, I am a realist. I like facing facts. You see, I think it will even be easier for the president to deal with the cabals within his own present government now than to deal with some of the cabals outside. You know, recently, the National Security Advisor made a startling, unexpected, shocking statement. He said the previous government looted Nigeria into bankruptcy. Let's face it. Can he face someone like Buhari? Can he pick somebody like Buhari up? Because see, let's not deceive ourselves. I don't see how you can even be probing Emefiele. All he did, and then Buhari shouldn't be there. Nobody has ever arrested a former president before. In fact, it's just like the fuel subsidy cabal thing. If you know some of the things we have had, some names we can't start, former heads of states, they are untouchable. I think the best the president can do, let's face it, I think it will be good enough if he can get back from them all they have stolen. And then make sure they are not able to steal again.
It's still the presidency in focus on TV Nigeria. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Okay, you're welcome back. We're still speaking with Professor Adola Jce and Mr. Olusegun Israel. Thank you, gentlemen, for being with us. Now, we're hearing, and it's all over the news, that the Obaze team, they are under serious threat. They've had phone calls, text messages, WhatsApp messages. Some of the effort is to also implicate him. There was a story about him collecting $8 billion. The so-called affected looters or persons are really desperate, and they are determined to run the Obaze team down. And they are using certain influences within the government. Will they succeed? And what's your call on the president?
Thank you very much. In the balance of investigation, there's something we do say. It relates to equity. I may not profess that Obaze is an angel, but for the purpose of this national assignment, so this that you have just said that the media is carrying against and about Obaze, they are distractions. And like we have seen, the threat to his life and that of his family members and even his team, they are nothing new to Asiwaju. Because you will see, in his entrance visit to the CBN, a lot of high-powered presidential shield were provided for him. Obaze was never a political office holder. So whatever accusations or allegations anybody is bringing up against or spring against him today might not successfully distract the focus of what he's meant to do. So what is to do now, sir, with or without accusations or oppositions, let us get the facts of the revelations. And luckily, he has been able to come handy with most of those details.
Mr. Segun,
It's expected for him to be threatened. You are trying to open up this thing of powerful people, principalities. not just in Nigeria, even Olam, a global giant in agro business, they are involved in this matter. The Anchor Borrowers Farmer Scheme, they used it to loot and swindle and embezzle a lot of funds. A lot of things are involved. So getting threats, I don't think that should, so that's one side, that's one angle. Let Jim Obaze do his work. Let him do it very well. After, if they have anything against him and they have their facts, and let them bring it. Jim Obaze too will go for it.
Professor Adola Justice, Obaze no doubt has done a fantastic job. What do you expect the president to do with the report?
After a routine report of this nature, recovery is the first pursuit. And like I said, having recovered, Mr. President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu should not go the way of former governments who went through the rail and the tracks of plea bargaining to allow and set free the criminals then, the financial criminals. You could see with that report, everybody now knows that the man that has been getting and has been winning the award of Africa's richest man, Nigeria's richest man, number 7th richest in the world, is being founded on faulty backgrounds. It is being discovered now that almost all the projects he has been founding were funded by loans without cash backing. Repayment covenants were broken. They weren't honored by him. And yet, he carried on because he had his voice in the system. So there are monetary implications on the entirety of the economy, and then integrity of our regulator is now shattered once again.
Okay, Mr. Shego, so what should the president do with the report?
This is what I think. He must have the boldness at the end of the day to take this report and apply it effectively. Deal with those who should be dealt with. Even if you feel, okay, I need to be diplomatic, I need to be, but let's us still have consequences. I know he may not be able to really do this thing the way he should do it, but let there be visible to discourage, those who are coming from behind, so that they will know that, come, you do this, even if you feel you are connected and powerful, you will still suffer. You may not suffer like when a nobody. So that's just the thing.
Prof, what should ordinarily be the lessons for the National Assembly? Because even before a central bank governor is appointed, he will always go through the Senate for screening. At this point where we're being governed, or we should be governed by law, what are those kind of laws or bills that need to be passed to check the central bank? It looks like the central bank governor is too powerful.
It's not that he's too powerful, he's been made too powerful. Courtesy, the extant regulations and laws. You see, if you go back to the CBN Act and you see the office of the governor, extant laws were making us to realize the autonomy of the governor of the CBN in deciding when to introduce a new currency, when to withdraw, when to retrieve, and when to swap. So, it is not about new laws, but implementation of the extant laws. But unfortunately, now with the CBN Act, the Enabling Act, it's so sad that too many things are there but are rotten.
So what should the National Assembly do?
Adibin, we have a National Assembly. Because the question I've been asking, how many legalistic members do we have in the National Assembly? People that are legally sensitive and aggressive to understand the responsibilities of lawmaking. What we have is we have politicians in the House, both at the chambers of the National Assembly. Adibin, we have legally minded persons who knows that lawmaking is about reviewing extant laws, suggesting new acts, and seeing through implementation of new ones. Do you understand? But unfortunately, we have politicians in the chambers. So it's for us to have an active legislature. This Obaze issue enough is a sufficient cause for the National Assembly to institute and initiate a complete review of the CBN Act.
Mr. Shego.
Well, you know what, you see, there is no doubt about the fact that we have very strong laws in Nigeria, but the implementation is a problem, the will to, But you see, at times also, we must admit the fact that certain things are not very clear in our laws. So I think the National Assembly should work more on some of these laws as regards the CBN and make it very clear. It's like there is no law that explicitly, our law is nebulous, it's vague, it's not clear. certain levels of integrity and decency are expected from certain people in certain offices, but it's like in Nigeria, they don't, some of those people you are expecting much from, they don't have much to offer. So I think the National Assembly should just work more on some of those laws and now make certain things explicitly clear. You can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. Simple. So that this blemish and embarrassment that Emefiele brought upon us will not ever happen in our history anymore.
Okay, Prof, this does not send not too pleasant signal about bankers. Emefiele seemed to have kind of rubbished.
He has rubbished the regulatory aspect of banking. But supervisory banking.
From revelations about the probe, some of the stolen funds, fraudulently acquired funds, are sitting pretty inside some commercial banks in connivance with the managing directors. Prof.
Sorry, sir. Who is a managing director of a money deposit bank when and where the overall head of the regulatory agency of the commercial bank is the principal? Like when I was in the bank, if peradventure our audit review and our routine inspection reports prop up a particular issue against a person in the bank, and you now find out that that person is the son of the MD of the bank, hello, how far can you go? Morally, it's a dead case.
Mr. Segun.
There is no way you can exonerate the commercial banks from this whole mess. Some of the monies that Dangote got, that some of these other people got dubiously, fraudulently, must have been channeled and moved. Yeah, you may say maybe to a large extent, maybe some of the commercial banks were helpless. When your regulator, the person supervising you is giving you certain orders that do this. Who are you not to do it? The fear of, you can even be victimized and person, so well, maybe you can, to that extent, say maybe they were helpless. But there is no way, if the head is rotten, then what are we talking about the body?
Professor Adola Jce, there was this aspect again, of course, more like intensifying the probe strategy about staff or staffers of CBN who are related to top-notch political personality for them to declare. What's the intention really with this work?
Discoveries were unfounded, treating and specifying the fact that insiders' collaborations played critical roles in the entirety of these frauds. How does that mean? People who were supposedly employees or nominees or appointees, and unfortunately again, the bulk of the principal parties in this that we are discussing were nominees and appointees of persons in government, starting with the CBN governor himself. If the president will come out sincere, it's not just to be weeded out alone. They should be prosecuted and condemned.
Mr. Segun, what do you think?
Well, you see, that's one of the major problems we have in this country. We don't know how and where to draw the line between professional ethics or professional connections and family. We don't know where to draw the line. You see, even at the lowest level of the banking industry, though I'm not a professional, but I've done one or two things in the banks before. There was something that used to happen. If you are doing boyfriend, girlfriend in a bank, the day you people marry, and they know you have married, one of you must leave that bank.
Sure.
You can't both be still working in that bank because they believe it will pollute your professional. You're not gonna be thing. If your husband has done something wrong and you are in charge of certain, emotional and sentimental, by you're not gonna be thing.
You're still watching the Presidency in Focus on TV in Nigeria. And we'll be speaking with Professor Adola Jce, an ex-banker of over 15 years, and of course, a political analyst, Mr. Segun Aino. The focus has been the probe of the central bank, the implications and impact on the Nigerian economy. We'll be right back on TV Nigeria. Stay tuned. Okay, you're welcome back, and still on the matter in focus. Professor Adola Jce, what's your overview assessment of the president's daring move to probe the central bank?
My joy is that the president is really acting out his genre. He was an auditor, trained auditor, and again, coincidentally, a treasurer of an oil company, and you know the entirety of Nigeria is oil. So he is quite aware of what it is. And that's why the blood in him is what he's spewing right on this issue. So it's a wonderful issue. But the late Obafemi Awolowo, he said, never consider a man lucky until after his end. Asiwaju has only commissioned this inquiry, but Nigerians are waiting to see the actions that would follow the inquiry. So the assessment is good, but the compromise that may set in is the fear Nigerians have. Let it not go the way of plea bargaining.
You see, like I said, it's better you don't start something like this at all than starting and stopping halfway, not going the whole log. You see, this man, it's very, even those who don't like him, there is something very clear to all of us. He doesn't have any malnutrition or kwashoko of intelligence and experience. He knows what to do. My only fear, he should be bold. Because some of the people he will have to face, they are even me, they are powerful. They are powerful, but they are not more powerful than God and Nigeria. They should, you know, somebody said the problem we have in this country is that we have very powerful individuals instead of having powerful institutions. We have people who are above the law. They will tell you the law is meant for you and I. They themselves, they are the law. The law doesn't apply to them. You can do it. I mean, they can do it. You cannot do. You know, that's, you know, I always say that we have rulers. We don't have leaders. Leadership is follow me as I follow Christ. Do it because you see me doing it. But rulership is, hey, don't do it. Me, I can do it. But if you do it, I'll deal with you. So that's not good enough.
I want to thank you, gentlemen, for your very in-depth and very impartial analysis of the central bank probe. But just to cap it, we're just going to touch on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's another milestone achievement in his recent visit to Saudi Arabia. The president secured a multi-billion-dollar infrastructure funding package from the Islamic Development Bank to fund a multi-sectorial portfolio of infrastructural projects at the federal and sub-national levels in Nigeria. The outcome of a very substantive investment discussions was actually held between President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the Vice President, Country Programs of IDB, Dr. Mansour Mukhtar, in Mecca, Saudi Arabia. And gentlemen, the president at that meeting said, Nigeria is a candle of hope that will light the way for Africa. And he said, once Africa is illuminated, the world will be a brighter place for all of humanity. What do you think about his trip, really?
What you have just read out is just a top-up on what Asiwaju commenced immediately he was sworn in. You know, quite unlike what we ever had in Nigeria, this is the first economically sensitive and business-minded president who sees the need to go about the entire world seeking patronage of the country. And while doing that, is ensuring again through private conversations that certain portfolio of funds are navigated to Nigeria for Nigeria's development. That is what we were campaigning for. We needed a business-minded president, not a politician president. So what we have seen, and luckily with the models in Lagos between 1999 and 2007, you are seeing a new Asiwaju. You understand? Because he's a structure and infrastructure-driven personality.
Mr. Shegun.
I read through some of the investment deals. It's a bumper package. It's a jumbo package, telecoms, even food security. You know, the most joyous for me is the promise by Aramco, you know, the Saudi-owned largest oil production company in the world, promising us help to revamp our refineries. Because personally, I believe that except we do that, whatever else we do may not, you know, that place we need to, you know, we shouldn't be getting something from our own backyard only to take it out to somebody. You know, it's even absurd. It's crazy. And then they also promise to help, even with our naira, to strengthen it against the dollar. You know, so, you know, personally, that Aramco, this thing is enough for me. Even if he didn't get any other, you know, but even in oil and gas, in so many multi-sectoral, you know, investment deals, it was, you know, that was a very purposeful and already fruitful, you know, journey he made. And I just hope that the UAE journey too, and some of the promises and everything, you know, the visa, the lifting of the visa, and you know, will, by the time it's done, with God's help, I think Nigeria will be far, far, far better.
I want to thank you very much, Professor Adola Jce. Your over 15 years of experience in banking has actually helped us to have an in-depth and impartial analysis of the issue. And of course, for you, Mr. Olusegun Israel, you know, your very in-depth, impartial analysis as a political analyst has also been of great help in giving us a very wide expose on the issues today. Gentlemen, it's been wonderful having you on the program. Well, from the in-depth and impartial analysis on the probe of the central bank indicates that the president needs all the political willpower to ensure that the decisions, the reports are well implemented to position the Nigerian economy for greatness. So join us on the conversation on our web TV, www.tvnigeria.ng, our YouTube channel, TV Nigeria 808, Facebook and Twitter at TV Nigeria, and our Instagram, TV Nigeria 1. Thanks for watching. Do care to join us on the Presidency in Focus on TV Nigeria next time. God bless Nigeria.